We need the microphone. We don't need the other microphone. Do we need this?
Oh, turn on. Do I have a green light?
Yes. This works.
Yeah, it works.
You think so? It's a bit maybe. Should we make it louder? Hello. It's louder. Huh? Is it louder? Okay. Can you hear me? Good. Thank you. So we are Fabrizio and Catherine from Unit1, and we have a practice in New York called the Distributed Architecture. We are leading K-BITS, walking, observing, designing the chronotype of Seoul. We each have about 10 years of experience in the US and abroad. But our practice is young. We just started the last year. Today, we would like to share with you our project, Uni-Wi-Fi, which we are currently working on in New York. It is about designing with communities. This is our first project through which we are exploring new ways of obtaining knowledge and designing and generating designing through it. We think that the exploratory research and design methods that we are developing would be relevant to our K-BITS program. So we would like to talk a bit more about the process. In summary, the project aims to bring free Wi-Fi internet access to underserved communities in Harlem, in New York City. We have intentionally developed the project in a slow and open and discursive manner so that our thinking is evolving as we engage with communities and residents. This made for a nonlinear development process, but one full of discoveries and rich of conversations.
We started the project during the beginning of the pandemic, which illuminated a particular social and infrastructural issue. It became clear that lower income families and neighborhoods in New York, particularly those with Black or Latinx demographics, face systemic lack of access to social infrastructure, which included built infrastructure. More specifically, lack of access to stable internet severely impacted learning for kids who rely on it for school or for elderly accessing vaccine and other medical information. So our project began with the desire to help and center these communities with a hunch that design would play an important role in bringing positive change to the built environment. Our initial research began with gathering data online. We read annual community board statements, which reported that technological upgrade and internet access is a dire need in Central and East Harlem, which then led us to further research on inequities in internet access. For instance, we found this map, which shows the percentage of households without internet access. Where you see the darker colors in the map means there's less accessibility. So you can see that East and Central Harlem, which are here,
Yeah.
the north part of Manhattan, are two of Manhattan's least online accessible districts. And we found data that 25.8% of households in East and Central Harlem lack access to internet, which is well above Manhattan's 11.7 average. Sorry, going back. In parallel to this, we are reading about a grassroots organization called NYC Mesh, which is a volunteer-run and community-maintained internet provider that has been in operation for about 10 years, providing high-quality internet for minimal costs. And the dots on the map show independent node networks provided by Mesh.
In more technical terms, Mesh installs Wi-Fi nodes on rooftops, which receive signals from supernodes. Each node reinforces the other ones within the network. So in a sense, their technology mirrors also their social aspiration to build a community by empowering each person, one node at a time. This was an important discovery in our process, as we found a technological partner that share our mission and stand out in a field dominated by profit-driven corporations. So, I think I need a glass of water. The process of connecting with Mesh took a significant amount of time, nearly 3 to 4 months. Because their operation is completely horizontal, and therefore there is no CEO or marketing person, it was very difficult to figure out how to connect with them. Can you continue?
So we crashed one of their monthly meetups and talked to them about our project. And the reception was very positive, which gave us confidence in moving forward with pursuing a collaboration with them. We were also talking to architects and developers who were active in Harlem, fighting for equity in the neighborhood. And one of our many interviewees happened to be working with Mesh on a project and connected us to their contact. So now we're collaborating with Rob Johnson, pictured here on the left from Mesh, who's a Harlem resident himself and has been working on several installations throughout Harlem. As with other parts of our project, this long process of referrals and conversations gradually changed and developed our view of Mesh and their relationship to our project. As our process is open and social, another goal is to design and install sculptural devices that people can feel ownership over them. We call them antennas, and they're conceived to be light metal structures with stabilizing plinths, cladded with solar panels or locally designed ceramic tiles. Okay. We envision diverse types of structures to be located in residential streets, rooftops, sidewalks, and parks. These are site-specific devices that we're designing together with local communities. And through design, we aim to make visible signs of change in the neighborhood and amplify the voices of marginalized communities through constructive and creative means.
Thank you, sorry for that.
We seek for the structures to be culturally grounded, so explorations of the neighborhood became an important part of the design process to understand the various urban conditions. We also conducted multiple interviews and conversations with residents, activists, and local community boards. We presented on multiple occasions to Central Harlem's community board, including their parks, economic development, and transportation committees, and received very positive feedback. These presentations and dialogues taught us a great deal about the community's specific needs and their aspirations, far beyond what we could ascertain only through online research. Multiple members of the communities reached out to us during these presentations, which led us to installation opportunities, insights about community dynamics, and more connections.
So since the project is self-initiated, getting funds was a big part of the process. We have applied to multiple grants and exhibition opportunities. Fortunately, we received the initial funding from Columbia University, which I am a graduate of. And a very important grant is coming from the New York State Council of Art, which will be soon announced. We have installed a couple of testing nodes early last month. This was installed at the Open Street West on 120th Street in Harlem. This is a dedicated car-free street zone, hosting a variety of community-oriented activities like movie nights and meditation yoga.
The second node was installed in a local church with much success, and we hope to install other nodes later on in the year to cover the entire block around the church. As a next step, we're looking to install more publicly accessible nodes in Jackie Robinson Park, which is a site we've discovered through interviews with activists and residents, and also through walking around in Harlem. This one will be a highly visible node, and architecture will play an important role in broadening the recognition of these community-owned and community-based structures.
For this next phase, we are planning to incorporate contributions from local BIPOC artists. We are in process to reaching out to the cultural institutions in Harlem, like Studio Museum Harlem, to develop a brief to connect with artists. We are also about to reach out to structural engineer firms like Arup and Silman, as well as fabrication shops at Columbia University and Parsons School of Design. So we hope to develop together with them design iterations and construction details. These Wi-Fi nodes will be independently owned, which means that we are going to donate these nodes and the structures to the community for free. We are very interested in shifting the internet services from major providers to free and community-owned systems.
Through engaging communities in the improvement of their built environments and demonstrating alternative infrastructural models, we hope that these devices will serve as catalysts for the expansion of self-sustained internet infrastructure in the neighborhood. We've learned an incredible amount through this labyrinthine and winding path of discovery, which we could have not foreseen prior to delving into the process. The project is an open-ended exploration that has evolved through immersion into the urban and social contexts, and the number of engaged actors and sites will grow over time. We hope that you will consider engaging and conversing with communities as you design, which will offer important insights and open new doors in your projects and help make your work richer and more socially engaged. Thank you.
About Q&A session after two lectures. Yeah, cool. Thank you. You will use the font.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking
And
for
share.
to well, here is, let me see.
Oh, share desk.
Oh, thank you.
Stop share.
Oh, oh, I do it again.
Share
Smart.
desk.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, cool. So just use this mic.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I want to share about this is related to my research and also the main theme for the Unit 3. And so the topics is reflection on drawing data, imagination, and machine vision. And I have been curious about the AI and human collaborations, the possibility of human AI collaborations for 3D modeling, because I feel for the AI machine learning image transformation, it's hard to have a control on 3D. And for me, I want to have more, if I feel that there's a possibility can combine this kind of methodology together to design something inside a platform. And so beginning, I want to start to explain why I'm making these tools. And so I would like to talk about the idea of creativity and imagination. I believe everyone has the experience of seeing a familiar shape from the cloud. The way our brain processes the data is to examine the shape, to trace the profile, to perceive the color and texture. So you look at the cloud to make up a story to see these are probably the dolphin and rabbit. And that is because you are familiar with those animals. So it's a projection of your mind. You can easily to recognize this shape because you have experience to seeing these kind of things. And so you see the world from what you have already known. You see what you want to see. This image would have meant nothing for the people who have never seen rabbit or dolphin before. And so, however, even if the observer, the people seeing the images all share the same background knowledge, we still can process the information differently. So in a famous example from Little Prince, the grown-up only can see a head, the top images, and refuse to accept the image can also be interpreted as an elephant swallowed by a snake. So even though we all have seen head, snake, and elephant, but the ability to see what everyone else cannot see is imagination and creativity. So when we were kid, we are more creativity. We see things differently. There's no preconception about what can be, what cannot be, and so here talking about the idea is not about inventing the new things from scratch. It's about recombining what you have already known to create something that doesn't exist yet through your observation about your environment. And so again, these two images has same kind of configuration, profile, shape, but they can be seen as two different kind of images. So we only see what we want to see, and when we are facing the creativities, we often pretty much confined by our preconceptions. And when we design architecture, we often start from either making sketch model or sketches. And there's plenty of research from neuroscientists saying that your hand is connected to your brain. The moment you start to draw to make, your ideas start to evolve. The medium guide you to discover unexpected direction. Imagination starts to evolve when you are physically engaged with the mediums. And this is another great example from about the ideas came from an unexpected direction. So this is an example of a sketch from architect Ted Lesky, the design of the chandelier in a Metropolitan Opera House in New York. And so this design, the sketch on the left, this design was never planned before. It was made from an accident before the meeting with the client. So here's a short video about this. It's not sharing. Wait. So
It does have a sound, right? Yeah, you have to unshare the screen. And then
I'll
share
share
the
the
screen.
screen. Oh, it's okay. I can just continue this without showing this. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, but the idea is on the right sketch, you see those splash. This white dot. There's the lights from the chandelier, and it was a so it is a white ink, and accidentally dropped on the paper, and then the meeting is coming, so you need to fix that mistake. So the way this architect did is to quickly to draw a few more dots, and then connect those dots to make a quick design. And then in the end, the client really like it. It becomes a new design of the opera house, because this is kind of chandelier they have never seen before. But this could have not exist if that accident didn't happen. So it's from the unexpected direction, the imagination. And just to talk about apart from imagination, there's another important text about architect is about making. It's not just making idea, but also we need to document the data, so all the data can be deliverable. So on this original painting by Carl Francesco, so in this version of original painting, this painting implies the architect is a person who shows the instruction of a painting, not a person who traces the shadow. So it's about the authorship of architect. Architect is a person to give the instruction of a building and architecture, and then so the builder can physicalize the ideas. So you need to then how to translate your imagination to your data is something also important for me. And so here the drawing from Carl Scarpa is like in the design we solve the problem by sketching. So most of the time you start from a white canvas, then you jot down all the information and constraint and dimension, and you start to draw a site to discover the geometry, the form of architecture, or the form of space. And you can see this drawing contains a lot of information across multiple scales and levels, across multiple scales and views. Some sketches are doodles to precise document and to lay out instruction for the construction, like the plan and also public elevations. And then some of them are just the perspective or more sketch view to imagine what kind of space can be, like more in a more perspective type of view. And so the value of this sketch, this drawing, is the ability to convey the information both in practical and also conceptual way. And so from Alberti's theory, the architect becomes the person who defines the data and document the data. So the blueprint of buildings can be deliverable. Ideas can be transmitted in a physical form. people who have knowledge of construction can build based on those predefined data. So how can we translate data from sketch to buildable drawings? And then the way we use to document data is through graphiting, through hand drawing. Now, most popular software in the market is Revit because of the robust function of data management, and the communication between each individual is more direct and intuitive for making like residential housing or commercial buildings, and it helps to reduce the potential of problem in the future. But we all know it's really difficult software to sketch an idea. So my thinking is that each software has its limitation. So form follows software. Do we design a building form because of what we can do with the software, or what we want to do with the software? I think this is two different kind of thinking. And for me, transferring data from sketch to drawing is different from transferring the data from sketch to computer. There's always a gap between physical and digital. So some information lost when you try to duplicate your sketches in the computer. There's always kind of the abstract loss during the translations. So what if we can sketch directly in the digital space from the beginning? Can we reduce those kind of information loss? And this is a highly constrained sketch from Gremlin's animate form. By changing the parameter of this is using the Maya, and then you can change the parameter, and then change the parameter of the predefined data to get a variation of output. You can get a consistent multiple result from the same rules. And then also from Gremlin using the simulation to find the configuration for the building. So this is a bouncing ball movement to find the form for architecture. Is a concept we start to sketch on the computer to sketch in the 3D space. And so since in this generation, probably for students, they are more skillful in computer sketch than hand sketch. Probably. So why I'm talking about imagination sketch and drawing data, because we are at a time of like overload by information. We're finally reaching the time to have enough amount of data to create something meaningful from AI. And a famous example of using AI to create something human never thought of is a Go match in 2016. So AlphaGo, the move 37 by AlphaGo. AlphaGo made a surprising movement that every expert thought was a mistake, but it turned out it's the most creative way to play Go. And it contains the traditional knowledge, but it's also a new way to do this. And then recently, two really powerful DALL-E 2 and then Midjourney are released. Now, these are amazing tools that can create super realistic images from text prompt. And I'm not sure if you have already seen this or not, but if you are on social media platform, you can see. I just recently, I feel really overwhelmed by this AI image recently. I just curious about the way how it works is to take your text prompt and then feed into the AI translator to refresh your text for something machine can read, and based on this train model to generate a series of images. But let's think about this. If the text is first be translated by AI and you don't really know what's happening inside the black box, is that still human imagination? And how much control you have during the process, and how much trust you have for the data set. And these are some images from architect Professor Corey. There's a series of yellow series about using text to imagine what kind of architecture can be. And this another urban agriculture from Professor Jose Sanchez. And I think this is really powerful tools for everyone, but just for, I think it's only specific for the expert, for the people who have a lot of knowledge. They can use this to create something meaningful, like for the artists, for the architect, for the people who have been trained before I feel for me that just these tools very limited because I don't even know what kind of text I should put in. So I don't. And then I think all the like machine learning model is about sampling. It's like we learn the data from the images, and then we know the feature. We create something from those training model to get a new stuff. So it's the idea about sampling. I feel the same principle is also in the architecture about sampling, recomposing elements, and then create new kind of object, especially a lot you can see in postmodernism. And then, so this is two kind of building in different periods of history. You can say the way they sample the components of the column of the facade element is different. Use different scale, play with different scale to create a new kind of facade. And so I think the city is kind of in the same way. Just the city consists of various small details elements, and all elements aggregate to become like a image, an impression for the observer. And another example is from if you look at the front plan, to look at city from the architecture plan. This is Campo-Mazzio drawing from Campo-Mazzio drawing and imaginary map to document all the historical building in Rome. For me, the collage drawing will represent the city of Rome by composting different architectural elements. Every column, wall, and space in between solid and body construct an atmosphere of Rome. Even if you zoom in, you can maybe, if you know well enough, you can identify which building is that probably. But it itself collectively create new kind of city map. And so let's go back to the first two slides. The concept of cloud tracing. Same images can have completely different description. This is human imagination, and imagination is combine something that exists to produce something that doesn't exist. So I started to think another idea of sketch in a digital space. If we use AI as an instructional guide to search images on a data set, and what can we create with these collaborations? Now, AI is tracing the cloud with all the accessible knowledge on the data set, and humans are the one making the decision to sketch, to imagine in a digital space. So the first one is the Mason model. What's the role of architecture in the city? And so this is about the impression of a city is formed by every little element in the city. If you look at the city from satellite, you can see the color, texture, layout of the street, and then plays a critical role to differentiate one city from the other. And then, so I'm starting to think, what if building can be made by this concept, sampling texture, sampling color, sampling pattern from city, and recombine to be a new entity. So if you look far away, you can see a whole as a complete image. But if you zoom in to see, it's actually composed by every small elements of the city. So the tool I designed is based on Blender as a plugin. There are two UI panels. One is for display on the bottom left is to real-time display in the images on the data set. And the other panel is on the top right. It has a image search, style transfer, and texture mapping function. And then this is how it works in the process. Is when you are modeling the machine, analyze your model and fit into the data set to find a similar image from data set. And it's just some of the output. So the first is image search button. You can activate the image classifier to search through the data set to extract feature from all the images you collect. And then based on the color, shape, and texture. And next step, you take a screenshot to capture the current view to extract a feature from your model, and then feed into the data set to find the similar images on the data set. And then you run a style transfer to transfer the bottom image to the upper model. So you get another layer of translation from the texture to the geometry. And then next, and after you style transfer, you project that image back to the model based on the camera view, camera projection. And these are some of the example for some user trying this tool. So it's not really intelligence. Machine is not doing the modeling for you. You have to do the model. What it does just show you the images. And so the image on the left side are the architectural precedent that being found during the process, and the image on the right are the style transfer images. And then last function is to deploy component. So you have the style transfer images on the mesh, and those style transfer images becomes a map for you to deploy the component. So you add another layer of complexity about the elemental kind of perception for the object. And these are some output with or without the components. The phase 2 is how to make an interior space. And I'm using a pixel-to-pixel image translation, image-to-image translation model from TensorFlow. And TensorFlow is an open source for machine learning platform. So with this piece-to-piece model, I'm able to train a particular building type by color coding the program. And after training, you can fit the black images to the piece-to-piece, and you will generate the corresponding program relationship plan on the right side. And this is demo of me using this tool to try to sketch something. And then when I'm doing this, there was no program, no specific intention. I just model based on what I see. And then I was thinking about the surrounding site, how to enter the site, how to see this from street view, how to see this from top, and then maybe it could be two buildings and with a bridge in between. Just really quick to get some ideas, some option from there, and then start to transfer the images to the models, and then it becomes another inspiration for you to find something, to find your direction. Once you have this model, then slice this model in the plane with floor height, and feed that images to piece to get a floor plan. Here I try to change the plan program relationship to voxel. There's three-dimensional relationship between different programs. And then use that voxel diagram as a map to populate to deploy the component for interiors. So these are the result of what could be possible be for the interiors and exteriors. And these are the screenshot from Blender just to really quick to show the ideas for the possible space and also screenshot. So it's real time, you don't need to render. So this is an experiment for me to think about architecture style and the conceptual design in architecture. So this model plugin is like a guidebook to display the precedent images to show what can be possible. And so I start to think, can people who never learn architecture also can able to design something, some object? Maybe the program or space is not usable, but maybe as a form, as a building form, it looks beautiful, like matching our aesthetic of the buildings, of the style. So maybe for a kid, they can play with this to do something interesting from there. And then can the designer also use this to accelerate the process of form finding as in a conceptual phase? And thank you so much.
If you have any questions for our present today.
For your
Yes.
last project, do you need to design this like nesting manually, or is it coming
Yes.
from AI as well?
No, you design manually.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm wondering, like, because like you keep like showing all the AI things and the I couldn't remember the name, Dali or something like. So they're making image from the text or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So I think because like this shape that already have so many intention and it is so much effort for coming it until there,
Mm.
and then putting. It seems like just changing the like texture of the like the facade or some skin.
Mhm.
So that was one of my curiosity. Like,
So
but the skin is coming from like not manually, right? Just you're just putting some data that's coming automatically like something.
the skin,
Yeah, like these kind of like textures.
yeah, the skin is coming from based on the texture map, and then I just generate the components to fit in the skin. But the meshing like this model is completely manually modeled by the user.
Is there a way to messing automatically as well?
I think generate 3D is pretty heavy. I'm not sure.
Software is doesn't follow.
Just I feel because I think people have been trying to just to using like the voxel to generate 3D, but it's also you need a lot of training data for 3D, and also it's really heavy, and then the result is always I don't know. I just haven't seen like really be able to achieve it, and I think that there's probably might be just I don't know, and then I think I'm kind of like I like to have more control. I feel like if you generate from the text or just that's from other people's intelligence or it's a happy accident and you don't have the control on it, and I feel uncomfortable with no control when I design something. But it's a good tool to get inspirations.
Maybe can I
Yeah.
add a comment? Yeah, so I totally get your
why is it like maybe it's just a using high-tech AI to just make a picture, you know? Yeah. What is the point of this? Yeah. But I think there's also another kind of function that if you see that when he's modeling and there are like the real-time images are popping up on the left bottom corner, they were kind of suggestions. So for example, we always do like Pinterest search for inspiration, right? But in this case, you have this geometries and it, this kind of similar kind of images or presidents are popping up to give.
From the next.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of taking the screenshot of this screen and then just the concept. This is so it's a real time referencing kind of. So that is also an interesting aspect. And another thing is that there are a lot of people looking at how to generate 3D models by AI. Like there has been already a lot of studies and research there, and images are doing very well. I think Unit1 is actually trying to looking at that 3D thing. So I'm pretty sure there will be 3-dimensional Mid Journey or DALL-E it's a matter of time. Yeah, but I think Jimmy is kind of quite creatively utilizing other limitations of what we have and trying to utilize this technique in a very unique way to generate an architecture proposal in a very short time. So I think that's kind of a value of this research, I think.
I actually have also some question in this regard. So it seems like so when we are modeling something in the 3D software, we think kind of on the 3 dimensions, right? And then just model it in 3-dimensional way. Like it has like height and the wide and some of the depths. But I think the way you are doing here is just take a screenshot and then just export it to like somewhere and then just search for some of the similar images. And then, so that means you are just projecting, you're just capture just a certain moment
Yes.
in your the 3D modeling and then just find some of the reference. But in reality, we are just always like moving around, right? So I'm not sure like how it like actually could be using, right?
I feel, yeah, I get what you're saying about the architecture is more about the human perception of a space, right?
Yeah.
But when we design it, let's say for competition design, we design it as a, I'm not sure your opinion about this, but I feel a lot of people design it as images, not making the images, not making a money shot to win the competitions. And then so, or now we evaluate the architecture from Instagram, from Pinterest. We probably never been to there. We don't know what kind of space that is, but we still take an inspiration from there. And then in the beginning, kind of using it to kind of question this about the way how we design.
Yeah, no. Actually, this is not something to criticize, but I think it would be more interesting if you just could give users some more the 3-dimensional reference.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, so actually we are modeling it in the 3-dimensional, but actually we are seeing also like just the 2D projection from the monitor. So actually this is just like some of the dimensionally reduced version of the actual the real the thought idea.
And what I really want to do is also like you can extract like the size of space, how big is program, and then from the person probably if you have that kind of data set, it could be useful for you to design something like you want to design a specific size of a museum, you get all the museum data, and then you have some like suggestion from AI probably, I don't know. But just the this is kind of like my first initial text is doing this by the 2D images, but even though it's in a 3D model, but it's kind of you get result of 3D object, but during the process you are always in the 2D.
And actually, I also like have one more question. You just create some of the math first, and then just contour it, and then just use the pix to convert that the plan to some certain program kinds of things. But I would rather like when you modeling it, you might be able to also assign some of the different color to some certain mass.
Yeah.
And then just use it as some the reference. I mean, like plan also have some of the different program, like so that could also like relate it to the 3D geometry, and then it also can help when you do the piece to piece the translation, because I feel like just this the black and some certain the programming transition, there's so many huge jump here. But if you like just assign some the color or some the different program, and then according to that the 3D object, and then just gives them some try to generate some 3D results. I think that's like would be more pleasing and more realistic, because it's more kinds of how the architects actually using this kinds of design process, right?
Yeah, you mean instead of cutting the plan as black, you start to color the program inside?
No, I mean just when you're modeling it, like
the math for the math.
Yeah, the mass process, like here's some of the residential and here's some of the small toilet, that kind of.
So and then you feed the images to the piece.
Yeah, and then you just can contour the massing, maintaining that the color as a reference.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So that will be interesting.
Yeah, just
to test out.
Yeah, just what I thought.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you make interior space, you use the floor pick-to-pick image of the floor plans. But when I saw the final render images of those modeling, I think like the heights are very different. Like even though you didn't consider the section images of that, was those kind of spaces were made naturally, or did you intend to make the height variables? Was it your intention, or was it made naturally during the AI?
It's not really AI or I model it. It's just it's a pre-designed component. So each one of these is different kind of component I model, and then on this program mesh. So basically, I use the color value. That value is the boundary of the interior program space. So I use all the surface as a base point, and then so on those value it has different heights in different place, and then when I apply this pre-designed component to those surface, it will scale in one direction to fit into that surface. So the result will become like this because of the size of the value is different in the section. So this is the just direct output from after that process.
So the math is composed of different size of boxes.
Yeah, different size of boxes, and this component just scale 1D to fix it. So there's a lot of so yeah, after this, there's a lot of manually adjustment you need to change in order to make it work as a real project.
Any question for Unit 1?
Actually, I also have one question for Unit 1. And I saw the render image of the Wi-Fi station, which was very tall and like linear. And what? Yeah, that one. Yeah, yeah, they. 네. So when I saw that image, the first impression was that the Wi-Fi station seems like the street lights that we often see on the street. So I wondered like if like the design was intended to work like different purposes, like being used as like street lights at night or like so my question is how the geometry came out like that, because I think there will be many other design options for these stations. So how you came up with it?
Okay, first of all, sorry for before I had the blackout. So I guess this is just a design that wants to represent the idea of having something really specific. So our project aims to produce sculptural structures that can represent the community. So we call them community specific. So the idea is that these structures can incorporate artistic contributions from local artists. So this is just an image. And if you saw the other images, they are different structures. So all the structures will be very specific, as I said, and different in each part of the neighborhood. Because New York, if you are familiar with it, it's like each block of New York is really like a city. So each block has its own pharmacy, its own supermarket, its own church. So it's like there is a community in each block. So each community has a culture, and we aim to represent this culture through some sculptural elements so that the people can feel ownership over them. I don't know if you want to add something else.
I think I'd just add that the overall height is in a way representative of its functional need, which is that the node would need to be elevated to be able to see other nodes on rooftops. So that's where the height came from. Thank you.
So we also we call them antennas, but they are not really antennas. They're just structures that house and elevate the nodes that are provided by this grassroots association called the NYC Mesh.
Can the design change depend on where it is located?
Yes, yes. So basically, we are designing these structures with the communities. So by talking with the people.
And was it hard to find people to collaborate and talk to? Like were people open to it? And how did you find them?
So in New York City, there are community boards. So it means that each neighborhood, each district has a community board. You can participate to some kind of public meetings that they have. We approached them, particularly in Central Harlem and East Harlem, which are two districts, as we said, that lack the infrastructure to access the internet. And immediately the project was well received. The feedback was positive, and everybody was asking us to continue and to actually provide this free Wi-Fi antennas. So we started to search for new funds, and apparently now we have some funds. So soon we are going to move from the test that we did already last month to some kind of architectural project that is going to be built. Yeah.
On the other hand, I think the process was quite long. Every time you reach out to someone, might take a while. And I think one conversation also always led to another connection, and we would reach out to them. So it was a long process, and it wasn't an immediate one, but very fruitful, I would say.
Yeah, it's really nice that you connect with one person, and then this person connects you with another person, and then another person. So in this sense, we call it as an open-ended project, because we are connecting with so many people, and we learn from each person that we meet. So we learn it's like a little piece of the puzzle, and that is like reconstructing the entire picture of the situation in Harlem. This answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the great lectures from yesterday. Yeah, and yeah, we'll continue this conversation over the course of this day. Yeah, thank you very much. Well done. Thank you.